Tonight on The Buzz, John Putch has directed television series like Ugly Betty, Cougar Town, and Nip Tuck, as well as feature films like Route 33. Tonight, he shares his secrets on directing and the differences between directing for film and TV. Next, Nick Mattingly's Switcher Studio is an iOS app that enables anyone with an iOS device and an internet connection to capture and deliver multicam events to online audiences. Now, with the new Director mode, it can record broadcast quality HD media that meets professional broadcast standards. Tonight, Nick explains how it all works. Next, James Mathers is the president of the Digital Cinema Society and a veteran cinematographer. Tonight, we talk about creating the best editing workflow for 4K media and whether 8K is even worth considering. All this, plus Tech Talk with Michael Kamas, a Buzz flashback, and Randi Altman's perspective on the news. The Buzz starts now.
Tonight's digital production Buzz is brought to you by Otherworld Computing at MacSales.com and by Blackmagic Design at BlackMagicDesign.com.
Since the dawn of digital filmmaking,
authoritative.
One show serves a worldwide network of media professionals.
Current.
Uniting industry experts,
Production.
filmmakers,
Post-production.
and content creators around the planet.
Distribution.
From the media capital of the world in Los Angeles, California, the Digital Production Buzz goes live now.
And welcome to the Digital Production Buzz, the world's longest-running podcast for creative content producers covering media production, post-production, and marketing around the world. Mike Horton has the night off. Two announcements recently caught my eye that I want to share with you. First, CalDigit announced a new set of docks featuring USB-C connectors. Now, we're much more familiar with the ubiquitous USB-A. There are several benefits to USB-C. The most obvious is that the connectors are reversible, which means there's no right side up or upside down. A bigger benefit is that USB-C is much smaller, making USB easier to add to mobile devices. Also, this new connector can be used for monitors as well as hard drives because it supports HDMI and DisplayPort streams as well as data. Finally, these new connectors carry far more power. Currently, USB connectors allow 2.5 watts. The new connector allows up to 100 watts, and it's bidirectional, so a connected device can either send or receive power. A second interesting announcement was Atomos releasing their new Shogun Studio, which is specifically designed for high-end 4K workflows. This got me thinking about how quickly 4K has grown in importance. In fact, last week I did a webinar on 4K media using iPhones and Final Cut, and next week I'll do a second 4K webinar featuring Adobe Premiere. In just a few minutes, we'll hear James Mathers, cinematographer and president of the Digital Cinema Society, share his thoughts on both 4K and 8K workflows. I also want to remind you to subscribe to our free weekly show newsletter at digitalproductionbuzz.com. Every issue, every week, gives you an inside look at both the buzz and the industry, plus quick links to all the different segments on the show. We have interesting articles from websites all over the world, and best of all, every issue is free. I'll be back with director John Putch right after Randi Altman's perspective on the news.
This is Randi Altman's Perspective.
For more than 20 years, Randi Altman has been covering our industry, and now she's the editor-in-chief of her own website called postperspective.com. And it's always wonderful each week to get Randi's perspective on the news. Hello, Randi, welcome.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
I'm talking to you. It's a week before Thanksgiving. How can I not feel great? Randi, I want to do something different this week. We've talked a lot about what the breaking news is, but I want you to take a step back. You've interviewed hundreds of editors over the years. What traits make for a successful editor?
A variety of them. I would say what's most important is just being able to get along with people in a very confined space. I mean, that's important. Also, not being afraid to express your opinion, not in an aggressive way, but just sort of feel confident enough to speak up and say, hey, what about trying it this way, or what about doing it that way? I think that the client respects that. That's part of the job, but some editors are more concerned that they might offend, so they'll keep quiet. But from the editors that I've spoken to, the ones that have been successful and the ones that keep in touch with past clients and employers the most are the ones who are able to sort of express an opinion, and that's been very important. I also think being part therapist is also important. You never want to tell the client that, but I think with any aspect of this industry, part therapist is an important talent to have.
Well, I was just thinking, you've listed three things. You've listed people skills, the ability to work with people in small groups in an enclosed, dark room for weeks at a time. Yeah. You've talked about keeping in touch. You've talked about being a good listener and expressing your opinions. You haven't mentioned technology once. It sounds to me like the technology part is not the biggest part of being a successful editor.
Well, it's important, but let's not forget there are a lot of people out there that can now afford the editing tools that are being used in editing suites. So people have the skills, and that's important. But if you have the skill and not the personality or the ability to be flexible and work in those dark rooms, then I think you're going to find less success. I think it's a combination of both, which is very important. I also, in terms of technology, more and more of these editors are being asked to do more and more, so they need to know After Effects, they need to start learning Resolve, and they need to expand their toolbox creatively, but I also think personality-wise. I think if you're a shy person, and I've met many editors who are, you have to go out of your comfort zone and participate.
So what advice would you give to an editor that's starting out? What should they practice on? Should they develop their tech skills? And if they need to develop people skills, how do they do that?
I think it's just putting yourself in that position. I know I'm thinking of one specific editor who is a quiet person who does not like to speak up. And I remember him having some trouble at the very beginning because he was overwhelmed, didn't know how to handle a sort of loud and bossy client standing behind his shoulder. So he clammed up and he did not offer his opinion. And I think that hurt him. And just from doing it over and over again, he learned that he needed to change in order to get jobs and in order to get work. And he's pretty successful right now.
You know, it's interesting. I've heard it said that an editor's job is 50% people skills, 25% technical skills, and 25% creative skills. Would you agree with that mix?
I would.
Well, what I want to do now is, this is like the first part of a two-part conversation, because I want to bring you back next week and do the same kind of analysis of what it takes to be a successful director, which is another group of people that you've spent a lot of time interviewing. Randi Altman is the editor-in-chief of postperspective.com. Randi, as always, a delight chatting with you. You take care.
Thanks, Larry.
To read more from Randi Altman, visit postperspective.com. Still to come on The Buzz. When you're working with media, one thing is essential. Your computer needs peak performance. However, when it comes to upgrading your Mac, there are so many different options to choose from that the process can be confusing. That's why Otherworld Computing carries the best upgrades that lets your computer performance and storage grow as your needs grow. Since 1988, OWC has become one of the most trusted names in quality hardware and comprehensive support to the worldwide computer industry. With an extensive online catalog of Mac, iPhone, and iPad enhancement products, as well as a dedicated team of knowledgeable experts providing first-rate tech support, OWC has everything you need to take your current system to the next level. Whether you need to maximize your system's memory, add blazing speed, or enhance reliability, look no further than the friendly experts at OWC. Learn more by visiting macsales.com today. That's macsales.com.
John Putch is often referred to as an independent film maverick because one of his first indie efforts, Valerie Flake, landed him at the 1999 Sundance Film Festival. His other notable films include the alt-indie cult favorites Bachelor Man, Mojave Phone Booth, which you have to see, and the Route 30 trilogy films. His television directing just depresses the heck out of me. He's directed Family Tools, The Goodwin Games, The Middle Body of Pool, Scrubs, Cougar Town, My Name is Earl, Ugly Betty, Grounded for Life, Outsourced. He has his own apartment at both CBS and NBC. He's directed multiple television movies and miniseries. John, welcome back. Where do you find time to sleep?
That is the greatest intro ever. I sleep just fine, but boy, that sounds important. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. You know, today I want to talk about directing, but before we talk about the new stuff, I need to find out what's happening with Route 32, the trilogy.
Well, the trilogy is complete. I finished Route 33 a year ago, and the whole entire trilogy is now available on Blu-ray and DVD in a box set, which is available at route30trilogy.com. And if anyone, one of the last screenings that you'll see of Route 33 locally in LA is tomorrow at the Directors Guild of America in West Hollywood at 3 p.m. in Theater 2. We're going to show it on a DCP, which I made here in my home using Adobe Premiere and a media encoder.
You are an amazing technologist. That's all there is to it. There's just leave the rest.
Geek, Larry.
When you're getting ready to do anything and you're in the prep stages and you're wearing your director hat, what are you thinking about? What are you prepping to get ready to direct a project, whether it's a film or a television series?
Well, it's wildly different between film and TV. The TV schedule is they have just endless meetings. So the first day you get there, there's a meeting about the concept of the whole script, and you must page turn the script at least 10 times before you shoot. And all you do is talk about the color of this and the angle of that and the stunts in this and the blah. You know, they have a very regimented set of meetings that go along and location scouts leading up to your shoot. On a movie, you know, it's quite different. You're meeting with you know, all the creative departments, and what, you know, your vision is really what they're going off of. Whereas in television, you're really just the hired gun, and the vision is set, and you're just really coming in and orchestrating it for them, puppeteering the script till it's finished shooting. So that's good.
Would it be correct to say that with television, you're really just blocking talent and cameras, and with film, you're crafting more of the whole story?
Yes, with an asterisk on the blocking talent and stuff, because you do participate a bit more than that if you want to. But yeah, I would have to say, yeah, there's more. I feel a little more creatively involved in a film scenario than a TV scenario. But that is not to say that the TV is not fun, and they welcome your creativity as well. You know, you're really just putting your little touch on it, or not. You're literally just falling in line with everyone else and delivering the episode the way it's supposed to be.
When you're directing and you're going on a location scout, what are you looking for?
Well, it all starts with what the script is asking for, and you know, you are looking for things that look really cool in a frame. So, for instance, I was doing a show called Rush Hour last week, which is a new show on CBS, and there was this scene written to take place on Sepulveda Dam over here in Encino, and that great spillway that's used in movies occasionally. And you know, we actually got the location, but we went there and said, okay, here's how we're going to shoot it, and here are the angles we want and everything. And that was a case of a great location that was written in. But if it isn't written in, and you say, and it says, hey, a building in Koreatown, you know, you with the location scout, you go down to Koreatown and you look around for a building, and you hope it's pretty cool looking. It's hard. I think LA is hard for locations for me because I'm so used to going to Pennsylvania where everything is gorgeous, and everywhere you look there's a beautiful picture. Here it's different. You know, it's urban and it's flat, and there's not good architecture here. So when you do a movie or when you do a show in LA, you know, you are limited to how the city looks, and you know, sometimes it just doesn't look that exciting. That's why you see pictures of the skyline of LA in between every shot on a TV show. That takes place in LA. There's always some helicopter or drone shot of these incredible office buildings and skyscrapers, because really, if you look to the valley, there's nothing. You look to the Santa Monica, or it's the beach, and that's, so LA is kind of, go elsewhere to shoot. That's my advice. Don't tell Film LA I said that. Sorry, Film LA.
Let's talk working with actors for just a second. And again, there's a difference if you're working with an established series or if you're creating a pilot or if you're doing a film. Because with a pilot and film, you've got more creative flexibility as you're trying to figure out what the characters are. But how do you work with actors, and what kinds of instructions are you looking to give them, again, wearing your director hat?
Yeah, well, if you cast your film right with the correct people, and you have to have an eye for talent for that, then pretty much 90% of your job is done. And then you become the audience member for them and guide that actor through his or her performance and help them look good and sound good and come off as correctly. If you don't cast it right, or you have no control of the casting and it's not the right fit, the actor, then your work as a director is much more difficult. And you have to spend a little more time working with this person and help them into this character. So I let people, I like to see what people bring. I don't like to tell them what to do. And I observe how they interact in the scene in a rehearsal or two. And then I might offer a suggestion or a tip or help them if they need help. But if they're working great, and I don't try to go in there just to say something because I'm a director. I just, let them do it.
What's a typical note?
Well, a lot of times too big or too small. It comes down to simple stuff like that, for the tone of whatever it is you're doing. Like if you're doing a broad comedy like Route 30, everyone kind of knows, and I'm often building people up. I'm saying, no, this is not an episode of Perry Mason. This is Blazing Saddles, and I say, you got to honk your horn, or be the think of the clown when you're doing when you're doing this movie. So that's a comment I make. And sometimes you got to go the other way and you have to bring them down because they're too big. Simple stuff.
What are you looking for in an actor when you're casting? Are you looking for some invisible spark? Are you looking for an interpretation? What are you looking for?
Well, I think you just have to be, you are open to anything, and I look for something that will surprise me or something that I didn't think of. And that tells me, oh, I've got a different take on this, and boy, did I like it. So that makes it interesting to me. You have to really be, when you write stuff and you direct it, you have to be open to someone else's interpretation of what you wrote. And if it's better, the way they present it, if it's just better than you ever hoped, you need to jump on that person and cast them. So I like to be surprised, and I hope that somebody comes in and makes me go, oh, I didn't even think of that. So I like that.
How much work do you do with your actors in rehearsal, and how much work do you do with them once they're on set?
Two-part answer. Television, you don't work with them at all until you see them on set, when you block the scene and the entire crew is standing around watching you while you block the scene. It's very nerve-wracking for an actor if you're not experienced. And you say, hey, start over there, end up over there. You need to pick up the file, at this point, and you have to end up leaving through that door. And then literally you say, okay, see what happens. And that's what happens in the TV realm in rehearsal. Film, I would rehearse more often. Even on my little movies, same thing. You come to set, we rehearse. Maybe we do it more times than you get to do on a TV show. And then while we're setting up, I'll maybe work with them, work with the actors a little, or not. I'm in the habit of hiring professionals, so I really don't have to spend a lot of time rehearsing with them. I send them off and run your lines together, make sure everybody's comfortable with the scene before they leave the blocking, and kind of that. I don't ever do pre-rehearsals. I haven't in a long time. I'm not a big fan of read-throughs. I hate doing read-throughs.
Why is that?
I think you just don't get an honest read of the material, in my opinion, because people are nervous and they're performing, and you're sitting around a table like a play, and that's not how you do it when you shoot it. So it doesn't seem, I never get an honest reaction from a reading, so I kind of never do it.
But it could be argued that on set is the most expensive place to rehearse, and as you said, it's nerve-wracking, and yet you find it the most helpful?
Yeah, again, on my little movies, there's no expense really because we're micro budget and we're small. On TV, when you're expected to know your stuff when you show up, so everyone who walks into a television show and rehearses a scene knows that they have like maybe 2 passes at it in there to get it blocked, and then while the crew is setting up, they have time to really lock in what they just did on the blocking. But it's never, sometimes a show will have problems with a script or a scene, or an actor who's a pretty big name will not be happy with the material in that scene for some reason because it just bumps them somehow, and things will grind to a halt, and the writer will come down and the producers will come down, and they'll talk for a long time and try to figure out how to smooth out that bump for this person, and sometimes that can really eat into your day. I've lost half an hour, 45 minutes sometimes when that happens. But you just roll with it, Larry. I'm there until they want me to leave. That's all I said.
Well, let's talk about one where you did have a little bit more control, which is The Father and the Bear. What's the thumbnail plot description?
It's a retired character actor who has diagnosed dementia, and he longs to perform at this beloved summer theater one last time because he has retired 5 years earlier. So against his daughter's wishes, he accepts a role from the newly installed artistic director who's unaware of his condition. And through the sheer humanity and cleverness of the staff and cast of the show, they help him sail through the one-night performance to great success. And I won't, spoiler, I'm not going to give away the end, but it's got a very interesting special ending.
How can you not spoil the ending when you said he does the play to great success? That sounds like a perfect ending. Music swells, fade to black to me.
Well, it is, but there's a caveat to it, and it's rather it deals with it deals with this disease and this illness. I'll just tell you, he doesn't remember that he was ever set foot in the theater. 6 months later, he doesn't remember.
Oh, wow.
That he had this incredible success. So it's kind of, it's chilling in a way. And the reason it's really a theater story, and it's so fun because it really shows summer stock the way it was. And I grew up doing that when I was young and at this theater. So not only I was shooting a movie in this theater I grew up in that my father ran, we're all over that place still. It's still in operation. It's like 65 years in. And I'm shooting a movie with an actor who stars in the film, who I also grew up with, who worked at the theater for over 40 years. And I'm using footage I shot, Super 8 footage I shot from the 70s through the 80s of this actor in this film as flashbacks to show his life span across this, his career, which is he's a character in the movie. So it's like I'm using all the footage, Larry, I've collected all my life in my lifetime from this place, and I've created a story around it, and I'm using it in the film. So it's really it's weird and magical, and I'm just fascinated while I'm editing, and I'm very emotional while I'm editing it too.
So production's done, you're editing. What are you editing in, and what gear are you using?
Well, I'm using Adobe Creative Cloud, the Premiere Pro, which I'm very fond of. This will be my second feature on it. I did Route 33 on it. Great, enjoyed it. What else? Do you want to see my edit?
I'm afraid to ask, but yes, I'd love to see.
I love this idea. Instead of giant hard drives just piled up all over your desk and then putting them in the closet with power cables and all that stuff, I use this. This is a Rocket Store video toaster. It's Thunderbolt. It holds 2 full-size or laptop drives. I buy the raw drives. I put them in. I edit. And then when I want to, when I'm done with it, I store these on the bookshelf in a little case like this.
That is very cool. When do you expect to wrap editing?
Wow. I think I'll lock picture by Christmas because I have nothing on my plate. I can just sit here and edit like a madman, which I really enjoy. And I think with all the sound work and all that stuff, I feel like end of March, I'll have it done and ready to put out there.
Well, we'll bring you back in a few months and get a status report on how the editing is going. John, for people that want to keep track of all the stuff you're doing, what website can they go to?
I would say go to putchfilms.com, PUTCHFILMS.com, and then from that you can go to the Route 30 site, the Father and the Bear site, whatever you want.
John Putch is the person we've been talking to, a producer, a director, a filmmaker. His website is putchfilms.com. And John, thanks for joining us today.
Still to come on The Buzz. The folks at Blackmagic Design keep shaking up the industry. The new DaVinci Resolve 12 could be all the video editor you need. DaVinci Resolve 12 combines professional nonlinear video editing with the world's most advanced color corrector. So now you can edit, color correct, finish, and deliver all from one system. The brand new Blackmagic Video Assist is a high-resolution professional monitor and recorder that allows you to see a full-pixel 1080 image large enough so you can focus a DSLR camera accurately. And the new Ursa Mini cameras provide stunning quality with a 4.6K sensor and 15 stops of dynamic range. Compact, lightweight, and built from advanced magnesium alloy. When it comes to state-of-the-art technology, look first at Blackmagic Design at blackmagicdesign.com. That's blackmagicdesign.com.
Nick Mattingly is the CEO and co-founder of Switcher Studio. This is an iOS app that enables anyone with an iOS device and an internet connection to capture and deliver multicam events to online audiences. Recently, they added Director Mode, which records broadcast quality HD. Hello, Nick. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
I am blown away by what the Switcher Studio does. And by the way, for you watching, before I start chatting with Nick, visit switcherstudio.com so you know what we're talking about. Nick, I showed this to our production team and our jaws hit the floor. I mean, this is amazing. So my first question has to be, does it really work?
Yeah, I've actually been on the App Store for just over a year. And we kept working at it, tightening down the screws, and just kept making it better and better. And we've got customers all over the world, and it's just so cool to see how people are using this product.
Well, I introduced it in the intro, but how would you describe Switcher Studio?
Switcher is a mobile video app that allows you to record and stream live video from multiple angles using iPhones and iPads.
Now, am I using the iPad as the switching, or can I do it on an iPhone, or what kind of gear does this work with?
Right, so it's iOS. It works for iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch. You pick one device that's your main mixer, your switching interface. That's where you log in with your Switcher account that you create through our website. And then you just install the app on another iPhone or iPad and wait to connect as a camera. You could literally pull somebody off the street and say, "You're a cameraman today," and pull them for your production.
How do the cameras connect? Let's just, because my brain wraps around it more easily, let's pretend that the Switcher is the iPad, and we've got iPhones for cameras. How did the iPhones connect to the iPads so you can see picture?
Right, so all of the cameras communicate over a local Wi-Fi network. So before you launch the app, you'll go into your general settings and just make sure they're all checked on the same network. You can always build a bigger bubble if you're using like an Airport Extreme. It's a great way to start. If you're doing a mobile production, you can fire up the hotspot on your phone, connect your devices to it. You won't be able to get very far away from the devices doing a production like that, but you can always build a bigger bubble. We've had customers that have set up dedicated networking systems in concert halls and for football stadiums where they've had kids at the coin toss and either end of the field running around just completely untethered.
What was it that led you to invent this, and how long did development take?
Yeah, so one of my business partners and I had a media agency previously, and I was more on the web and application development side. He was a production guy. He's done hundreds of TV shows, thousands of live streaming productions at this point. And we were also consulting with people that wanted to do live video, that wanted to create their own content. And it was so frustrating to see people get excited about doing video, but then put the brakes on because it's so expensive, it's so complicated, it takes so much time to set up. And we would have customers that would spend months moving around budgets and hire someone just to run the gear because it doesn't make sense. And we kind of put a break on that and turned our development inwards, said, how should this work? And now we have Switcher.
Well, how long did it take to develop?
There is a lot of time that has gone into this project. We've got 7 incredible people on our team. We're not all developers. We've got people that are doing production and support, people that have been involved in the broadcast and radio and television. One of our guys developed games for EA Electronics or Electronic Arts for a while. So a lot of time has gone into this. One of our developers had probably 3 years in it before we started kicking up the notch on getting it where it is today.
Wow. How would you compare this with a TriCaster?
It's very similar from a functionality standpoint. The end product that your viewer will see is that same kind of multi-camera production where it's really dynamic. You have multiple angles. You can bring in graphics and effects, picture-in-picture. You're not spending $5,000, $10,000, $30,000 on equipment. There's no special hardware requirements. You're just using iOS devices. So it's maybe not necessarily a replacement for a TriCaster type setup. If you're spending that kind of money on a video setup, you will notice a difference in quality. But in many ways, it can complement those systems. A traditional video mixing setup, a lot of times is a permanent installation. What are you using in your studio? Do you ever take it out? Probably not. If you do, you can, but it's going to take an incredible amount of time to do that. Switcher, I've got a 4-camera setup in my laptop bag at all times, and I can be up and running in just a couple minutes.
Well, we have a vested interest in webcasting here at the Buzz, so we're all listening very closely to this. What format video do you support? Can you do both 720 and 1080?
The main mixing device will record locally to its own storage, and that can be up to 720. Using the new director mode, it will disable the built-in camera on the main device, and each connected camera or source will have its own independent capture. And with that, we're able to have full quality video from every angle, still see it on our main mixer and composite it after the event and matched up with every edit made during the production, regardless of any hiccups or glitches on the network. So with this workflow, you can have a 1080p fixed frame rate video coming out of your production that you can even push into Final Cut and have everything show up. All of your cuts are already in place. You don't have to start from scratch and time sync. You can just tug at it if you missed an edit or need to move things around.
So in that second example, say I'm working with iPhones. The iPhone is the recording device as well as the camera, and the iPhone is sending a signal over to the switching iPad in this case, correct?
Exactly. So one of the great benefits of the new director mode functionality is if you are doing a production where you want to broadcast live real time for people to watch while it's happening, maybe you're sending to YouTube or Ustream, but you don't have a great internet connection, or you get down to the wire and you've got to make some adjustments, and you drop the quality for the live broadcast so you can get it out to your viewers. Because as long as there's a moving picture, they're going to be happy. But there's a different expectation for on-demand content. If I'm watching at my leisure, just as a viewer, you want it to look like something you're going to see on TV. So with director mode, you can do a live broadcast at any quality, do the best that you can, or drop it down if you need to, and still have a full quality HD recorded video to upload afterwards.
Are we able to pick the streaming service this feeds to, or are we locked into a YouTube feed?
It uses RTMP and works with just about anybody. So as long as you can get a stream URL and stream ID, you can hook it in with a lot of platforms. Almost any Wowza service, YouTube, Ustream, Twitch, Concert Windows, Stage It. There's a big list. If you go to our website, in the knowledge base section is a list of supported streaming platforms where we have full tutorials on where to go on their websites to get information, how to interface it with the app. And we just keep making it easier and easier. We still have people finding platforms we didn't even know about that hook in with the product.
It's just an amazing piece of work. It's just stunning to watch. What do we need to install to get this to work, and how much does it cost?
Right. So all you need to get started is one iOS device, iPhone, iPad. You'll go to switcherstudio.com and create an account. You can get a 7-day free trial without even putting in a credit card, take it for a test spin, and use that to log into the main mixing device. And with that main device, you can use the built-in camera, you can add photos, you can add graphics, you can do images with opacity. So if you have a lower third or a corner bug built, we even have a desktop screen sharing app for Mac where you can bring your computer screen in. So you could do like a picture-in-picture or a 2-up. And that's without even getting into the multi-camera component. So all you need is one device to get started. It works all the way back to iPad 2, iPhone 4. We've really tried to keep this lightweight so that it works with devices that people already have. Obviously, newer devices are going to perform better. You'll be able to take advantage of newer features as those become available. The iPad Pro would make a great mixing interface. The iPad Air is a great mixer. Even the iPad Mini, the previous iPad Mini, they make great mixing interfaces. So if you're starting from scratch, you have absolutely nothing. You could get an iPad Mini for $300. You want to get it on a tripod, so you get you a mobile media case, tripod for $60, $80. Want to make sure you have good audio, so maybe look at getting like an iRig or TRRS adapter for $30 or $40. So $500, you've got a awesome video mixer that you can just start adding cameras. If you got a camera in your phone in your pocket, you're ready to do a 2-camera setup, and it's really easy to add from there. We have customers that are doing 4-camera setups that. Any other video mixing software, you're going to have a $2,500 laptop just to run it. And they're doing full 4-camera setups with all of the gear and accessories that they need to go along with it for the same price.
You have just depressed people owning remote trucks enormously. I just want you to know that. Who are some of your customers?
We have a school in Australia that's using it for visually impaired students. Kids have their own tablets or they project video on the wall. They're not even recording or broadcasting. There's a school that's using it for theater staging. So they're making sure their lighting is right and that their markers are where they need to be on stage. We have a guy that has a dyno rig where people are bringing their souped up cars, and he's got all of these meters and like stats going and these revving engines and smoke. And he's doing productions and giving people video. And then it's all across the board. It's religious services, concerts, athletic events, local government. I mean, it's incredible to see what people have done with this. And it's made it hard from a marketing standpoint because it's being used in so many different ways. But, that's a good problem to have.
It is indeed. And for people that want to learn more or see the tutorials or download the demo, what website can they go to?
Right. So you go to switcherstudio.com, and there's a 7-day free trial. Check it out.
It has got to be so much fun to take this idea and spend 3 or 4 or 5 years developing it and then just have it explode all over. I wish you great success, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Great. Take care.
My pleasure. That's Nick Mattingly. He's the CEO and co-founder of Switcher Studio. Their website is switcherstudio.com, and you owe it to yourself to check it out. Thanks. I'll be right back. James Mathers is a veteran cinematographer and president of the nonprofit educational cooperative, the Digital Cinema Society. It's always a delight having him on the show. Welcome back, James. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Larry.
You've got a special event coming up this Saturday. What is it?
Well, it's going to be at the Raleigh Studios in Hollywood. It's called 4 Ways to a 4K Finish. The reason, it's a catchy name, I think, but there's so many different ways to get to 4K, and it's increasingly being demanded by, the OTTs like Netflix and Amazon, and it's really not that challenging anymore, but like, the saying goes, it's like the workflows are like a snowflake. Each one is unique, and by the time they hit the ground, they disappear. There's a million ways to get to a 4K finish. We're going to look at do-it-yourself on the desktop, which is, getting to be increasingly practical. We're going to look at the more traditional models, doing an offline and then going to a place like Photo Camera Modern and doing your basic old-fashioned online finish with the mezzanine 4K master. And then we're also going to look at hybrids and camera to cloud.
Now, I will confess, 2 years ago, I was a skeptic on 4K, and I've gradually been dragged kicking and screaming into the higher resolution environment that 4K offers. Is it really for the mass market? Should general filmmakers consider 4K, or should we just sort of stay stuck with HD? Well, you should consider it, and as a matter of fact, I pitch it, and it's based. You can see all the gray hair that I have here, and I earned all those with a lot of experience, and experience tells me that this is very similar to what we went through with HD maybe 10 years ago. And at that time, there was a lot of producers that were, I was pushing HD, and they said, why do I want to bother to do that? It's more expensive, it's more complicated. Some of those projects, I look back and they really shot themselves in the foot if they didn't shoot HD, because now they have something that's 4:3 standard def and nobody wants to see it. I know I did this documentary where I literally circled the globe for National Geographic, doing a documentary on the world's great religions, and it was a fantastic. Worth the price of admission just for the B-roll of the temples in Thailand and in India and everywhere else we went. But it happened to premiere the night that we invaded Iraq to start the Iraq War. So needless to say, nobody watched it. And when they thought about bringing it out again a few months later, it lost its momentum. And it would be a great program that would stand the test of time, but it's in standard def. And when the rights reverted back to the producers, they couldn't do anything with it. They couldn't sell it, which was a real shame. And I've had lots of examples like that. I have examples like that for us in the Digital Cinema Society. When we first started our streaming effort, we record all our events and we stream them from the website. But when we were finishing only in a really small player window, I forget, 240 by whatever, and that's all that you could, basically stream in those days. But now you can stream HD in our, some of our programs, some of the best programs we have, like a lighting seminar with the ASC. It's hard to show anymore. It's hard to watch in the small thing. You can't blow it up full screen like people like to do. So I know that we're going to start doing 4K. As a matter of fact, we're going to shoot this next meeting with the Panasonic VariCam in 4K, and we're going to finish it and put it on YouTube as a 4K video. Now, there's some talk going on of 8K and moving up to even higher resolutions. Should we start to worry about this? Or because I think there's a point of diminishing returns, personally, where you're just not going to be able to see all those pixels. What do you think? There sure is a point of diminishing returns, and I think that 4K is a good plateau. Not necessarily for production. It's good to be able to shoot at the highest resolution that you can afford, because there's so many things that you can do with reframing and stabilizing and that sort of thing. To have the extra area is not a bad thing, if it's getting to be practical as it is. But as far as finishing in 4K, I agree that's a point of diminishing returns. You can't really see the difference on the size screens that we have today. As a matter of fact, you can't really tell the difference between HD and 4K, much less 4K to 8K on the screen. I'll say a 55-inch screen if you're more than a few feet back. So the
geography inside of a space of a living room is going to be a limiting factor. You need to have a much bigger screen to be able to perceive the difference in resolution unless you're sitting right next to it. So I think that 4K is going to be a good plateau for quite a while to come.
And for people that want to pick up on all the information of a 4K workflow at your event, where do they go on the web to sign up?
They can go to digitalcinemasociety.org, and on there's a notice about the event and a place to RSVP, which is rsvp@digitalcinemasociety.org.
James Mathers is a veteran cinematographer and the president of the Digital Cinema Society. James, thanks for joining us today, and best of luck on your special event this Saturday.
Thank you so much, Larry. Bye-bye.
Still to come on The Buzz.
I've got a ton of brand new training videos showcasing all the new features in Final Cut Pro 10.2, and they're all available today. In fact, we've updated our entire Final Cut training for this release. We added more than 70 new movies covering every major and minor new feature in the software. Then I figured as long as I was recording, I added new techniques and new ways of working that I've discovered and written about in my newsletter over the years. We've updated our workflow and editing training with 31 new movies and effects with 41 new movies. This makes our Final Cut training the most comprehensive, most up-to-date, and most affordable way to learn everything about this amazing software. It's quick, it's easy, and it's complete. I'm proud of all of my training, and especially proud of this one. Get your copy today in our store at larryjordan.com, or even better, become a member of our video training library and get access to all of our training for one low monthly price. Both are incredible values. Thanks.
Welcome to Tech Talk, sponsored by Keycode Media.
Film isn't dead. So says several A-list directors and Blackmagic Design. That's why way back in July of 2012, Blackmagic acquired Cintel, including their line of telecines and associated software. And now, Blackmagic has introduced the revamped Cintel scanner. The Blackmagic Cintel film scanner is very simple in principle. You scan your 16 and 35 millimeter films, including prints, negatives, inner positives, and inner negatives, into a media format that can retain a majority of the quality found on the prints. This has always been possible by a third-party facility, but it's always carried a steep per-foot cost. Tech Talk was able to head to the Blackmagic facility in Burbank, California, and test drive the unit. Let's see how that went. We're here at the Blackmagic Design facility here in Burbank, California, to take a look at the new Cintel scanner. We also have Tina Ekman with us from Blackmagic to talk to us a little bit about where the scanner fits in and how easy it is to use. So why don't we start with something very easy, Tina, and that's the price point of this is so low that it can enter into a lot of different markets.
That's correct.
Where are you seeing it fit in, at least in the initial run?
Well, it's really interesting because we did start this, as you'd mentioned, as a technology preview a couple of years ago, and we had listed the price at about $30,000. And we've had a lot of different feedback over the past year or so, developing the scanner, etc. And now that it's shipping, we have people coming out of the woodwork, which is actually really exciting, and they're looking at all different markets, which is a benefit of being Blackmagic. We never know what we're going to get, but it was designed as more of a restorative type scanner, you know, taking that older content, getting it ready for UHD. Great fit for that with a lot of the features it's shipping with. But we're finding all different sorts of uses, and people that of course want to push the limits on the scanner, or maybe find a different market like the dailies market, for example. You know, film is cool again, so if we can, you know, extend the life of film a few more, or get a little vintage, those independent guys really like being able to have the option of maybe doing a project for a little less budget. I'm getting calls daily right now, multiple actually, different markets. So rental facilities, people that want to be able to, you know, service different parts of the workflow, like dailies again. And I should make point too that we're not doing everything, you know, student films from the 1900s, not so much. And a little more current than that, you know, 1970s, a film that hasn't done a ton of shrinkage, or we've seen perfs that are really, really damaged, you know. But in general, feel, that sweet spot in the market with all those streaming services out there. Some of that old 1970s footage is probably going to look really great on some of those streaming content servers.
What components do we normally need to get this off the ground?
Once you get the machine calibrated, which was a click of a button in a few seconds, we've got it set up. We've connected it via Thunderbolt to any Thunderbolt-capable machine. So whether it's a Mac Pro, like what we have here in the office, or an iMac or a laptop or a Windows-based machine that has Thunderbolt connection, you're good to go. The speed of the machine and the speed of the storage obviously will play into that a little bit, but you would just make the adjustments rather in Resolve to the frames per second, and you can accommodate any of those types of equipment.
It would probably make sense to have it connected to a powerful machine, because most likely once that footage comes in, you then want to grade it, and because Resolve uses GPU so well, getting a Mac Pro with a lot of horsepower would be great for that.
And I suppose it would be based on the project as well. If you're scanning multiple reels and you need them completely scanning, you may have more than one station so that you can offload the footage to another machine for color and edit and finish and keep the scanner scanning. It really just depends on the client.
So what I'd like to do now is if perhaps we can start running some film through here, and perhaps you can show us the controls. I understand there's only a handful of controls that the user may have to intervene and use. So if you could show us that, that'd be fantastic.
Okay, so some of the features actually on the scanner itself that you need to be concerned about are, first of all, this dial up here on the housing is the manual focus knob, so you can make adjustments to your focus. And then we have our typical transport knobs that you would see down here, or buttons rather: rewind, step back, stop, play, step forward, fast forward. And we have the other button here that's load. So at the beginning when you're setting your film, you press the load button and you'll see the tension adjusting on the scanner itself. Once the scanner is ready, then you can move over to Resolve. With that said, you're not going to see any of the controls in Resolve as a regular user unless you've attached a scanner to it. And in order to get to the controls, you would simply come to the media page and click on Capture, and you'll see that the user interface adjusts accordingly. Certain things have happened before we've set everything up, like calibrate, for example. Once we've connected the machine, we calibrated it. But here you can make adjustments for the film type: positive, negative, inner positive, inner negative. You can adjust for the film type, 16 millimeter, and options for 35 millimeter with 2 perf, 3 perf, or 4 perf. If you need to adjust for the perfs, you actually have plus or minus adjustments, very simple to use, as well as frame adjustments. Depending on the machine and your storage, you may want to adjust the scan speed to go 24 or even down to 1, depending on your machine. Also, before we set anything up, we have the feed A and the take up A or B as well. So in this case, we're using A. You'll next see the light source area, and this is actually quite cool. If you know what you're doing, you can mess with the colors yourself, but you can get started very quickly by hitting auto black, and you'll see a nice improvement. The next section down is image stabilization. Of course, we have an automatic checkbox, or you can make adjustments horizontally and vertically yourself. Film protection gives you a little bit more controls over the acceleration and the shutter speed, and below that is all the metadata. If we were going to capture a clip, a couple things that need to happen is that we would set an in and out point up here in the upper left corner, which we've already done. We would also find the appropriate folder. So you can see we've set up a folder here for Digital Production Buzz. Click OK. And then down below, we simply hit Capture Clip. So you can completely control the scanner from Resolve and get a beautiful image. Simple as that.
Thanks to Tina Ekman and the entire Blackmagic team, we have a ton of tech info to share with you. As we saw, the scanner comes equipped with a Thunderbolt 2 port so you can attach it to your computer, Mac or Windows, and using another Blackmagic acquisition, DaVinci Resolve, so you can then clean up and color grade the scanned film. The scanner also has an HDMI output. This allows you to preview your scanned film. I stress though that this is only for preview, as the port is only HDMI 1.4 and with only 422 color subsampling. Also, the HDMI port has no user controls. It displays whatever the monitor can handle. They simply handshake via HDMI. So, if you have a UHD monitor, the scanner will display UHD, and the same goes for HD as well. Many folks have asked about resolution. Will the unit retain the image fidelity of my original film? And that's a valid question. The scanner has a native resolution of 4096 by 3072, which is a 4:3 aspect ratio, creating 12.6 megapixels. This is great because the effective resolution, for example, for 35mm is 3840 by 2880. Super 16 is only 1903 by 1143. The scan also records the perfs as well, so you will need to crop them out in post. I've had many discussions on what codecs the scanner encodes to. More DI-based codecs like Cineform would be an obvious choice, as well as more edit-friendly codecs like ProRes or Avid's DNX flavors. However, the first release of the scanner will scan each frame into an individual 12-bit log cinema DMG file, very similar to the Cineon encoding schema. This translates to about 700 megs a second for 35mm at 30 frames, or 210 megabytes a second for 16mm at 30 frames. This, of course, means you'll need some very fast storage. It then falls on the end user to encode this image sequence into your preferred codec du jour. The scanner can hold spools of up to 2,000 feet of film, which in terms of running time is about 55 minutes for 16mm or 22 minutes for 35mm if both are at 24 frames a second. Speaking of frames per second, the unit can play up to 30 frames a second if need be, and you can shuttle at 100 or 200 frames a second if you're using 35mm or 16mm film, respectively. Now, those of you who have worked with film before know that in some instances, audio can be encoded onto the celluloid itself. However, in many scenarios, sound may be on mag stock or many spools of mag stocks. Unfortunately, this scanner only handles optical audio, which is encoded onto the celluloid itself. Your mag reels would definitely need to be transferred elsewhere. The scanner does have AES and unbalanced audio inputs, so if you were so inclined to have a system to read mag stock and convert it, you could capture the audio and the scanned video via the Thunderbolt 2 connection on your computer. However, this feature for audio is not enabled on the first software and firmware release. The unit retails at $29,995 and includes a copy of Resolve Studio with a dongle to work with a scanner, and it has just started shipping. Out of the box, it handles 35mm with an additional accessory kit to handle 16mm formats as well. So, if you're like me, you're going to break out all of those student indie and home movies and start getting them transferred. Or maybe we should just go back to shooting film. What do you think? I'm Michael Kamas with Keycode Media.
It's time for a BuZZ flashback, 5 years ago today.
With this camcorder, it's sort of the coming out for the AF100 camcorders. Apparently, it's the world's first professional HD camera equipped with a MOS image sensor, and we're honored to have it at GV Expo. The camcorders have a sensor that allows easy recording video, and I'm told it has an imaging area almost the same as that of a 35mm film.
This was a BuZZ flashback.
The AF100 camera from Panasonic changed everybody's perception on what kind of image quality we could get from HD. And I remember the excitement 5 years ago when they first introduced that 4/3 camera chip. The pictures that it created were amazing, and suddenly we realized that we could start to get cinema looks from cameras that didn't have a huge price associated with it. I've been reflecting over the break on our interview with John Putch and some of his thoughts on directing, and I always enjoy chatting with him. Nick Mattingly, the CEO of Switcher Studio, James Mathers, the president of the Digital Cinema Society, and as always, Randi Altman and Michael Kamas joined us as guests today. There's a lot of history in our industry, and it's all posted to our website at digitalproductionbuzz.com. Thousands of interviews, all online, all available today. And remember to sign up for our free weekly show newsletter. Talk with us on Twitter at DPBuzz and Facebook at digitalproductionbuzz.com. Our theme music is composed by Nathan Doogie Turner, with additional music provided by smartsound.com. Text transcripts are provided by Take One Transcription. Visit takeone.tv to learn how they can help you. Our producers, Serena Catania, engineering, Megan Paulos, Ed Golia, Keegan Guy, Hannah Dean, the handsome James Miller, and Brianna Murphy. My name is Larry Jordan, and thanks for joining us for the Digital Production Buzz.
The Digital Production Buzz was brought to you by Otherworld Computing, providing quality hardware solutions and extensive technical support to the worldwide computer industry since 1988. And by Blackmagic Design, creating revolutionary solutions for film, post-production, and television.